April 28, 1988. A routine island flight transforms into an open-air nightmare as Aloha Airlines Flight 243's fuselage rips apart at 24,000 feet, leaving the cockpit and 95 people exposed to the sky. One flight attendant vanishes, over 60 are hurt, yet the shattered plane lands against all odds. How did an everyday Boeing 737 become the centerpiece of a tragedy that rewrote aviation safety? The answer begins with the unseen scars hiding beneath its skin. At 24,000 feet above the Pacific, the calm of a routine flight shattered in an instant. Without warning, a thunderous crack tore through the cabin as an 18-foot section of the fuselage roof peeled away. The blue Hawaiian sky rushed in, blasting through the aisle, stripping away ceiling panels, insulation, and even the cockpit door. Passengers sat strapped to their seats, faces battered by hurricane-force winds, clutching armrests as debris and oxygen masks whipped past. Some watched in disbelief as the sky replaced the ceiling above their heads. In the chaos, flight attendant Clarabelle Lansing was swept from the plane, lost in an instant. She was the only fatality. 65 others suffered injuries, some severe. Yet every remaining soul aboard faced the same raw exposure to the elements at the edge of consciousness as the plane plunged earthward. The aircraft, a Boeing 737-200 named Queen Liliuokalani, was now a shell, its interior exposed for all the world to see. The images captured that day, jagged metal, open sky, terrified faces, would become icons of aviation's worst nightmare. 95 people remained on board. Their survival depended on what happened in the next few minutes, and on the hidden history written into the metal beneath their feet. Queen Liliuokalani, the Boeing 737-200 at the center of this disaster, was not just any jet. By April 1988, it had completed nearly 89,700 takeoffs and landings, one of the highest cycle counts of any 737 in the world. Each short hop between Hawaiian Islands meant one pressurization, one depressurization, and another notch on the airframe's tally. Unlike long-haul jets that log hours in the sky, this aircraft's life was measured in cycles. Every cycle stretched and relaxed the metal skin, especially at the seams where panels overlapped. The Hawaiian climate added its own punishment. Warm, salty air seeped into every crevice, accelerating corrosion deep beneath the paint and insulation. Moisture worked its way into the lap joints, those layered seams running the length of the fuselage, weakening the adhesive meant to hold them tight. The tropical humidity, combined with relentless cycling, set the stage for a slow but steady breakdown. This aircraft rolled off the line in 1969 during an era when cold-bonded lap joints were standard. The design relied on glue and rivets to keep the fuselage together, a method that seemed sound at the time. But with every island takeoff and landing, the limits of that construction were tested. Over 2 decades, metal fatigue and corrosion crept forward, mostly hidden from view, until the day everything gave way. Inside the skin of the Boeing 737-200, the lap joint was a layered construction meant to hold the pressurized cabin together. 2 sheets of aluminum overlapped, joined by a thin layer of adhesive and secured with rows of rivets. The cold-bonded adhesive, designed to share the load with the metal fasteners, was never intended to work alone. Yet over years of island flying, warm salt air crept into the seams, breaking down the adhesive's strength. As the glue lost its grip, the rivets began to shoulder the strain of every pressurization cycle. With each takeoff and landing, microscopic cracks formed at the edges of the rivet holes, areas known for concentrating stress. These cracks, invisible from the outside, slowly grew outward, aided by corrosion eating away at the metal. The process was not a single failure, but a silent, widespread attack. Dozens of tiny cracks, each starting at a rivet, spreading through the lap joint. Over time, cracks from separate rivet holes began to link up, forming a continuous fracture line. Metallurgical analysis later revealed the classic pattern of multi-site fatigue damage, or MSD, a network of cracks that finally joined together, allowing the pressurized cabin to unzip along the lap joint. On Flight 243, this unzipping followed the S-10L stringer, tearing an 18-foot gash in the roof. The adhesive doubler, once a safeguard, had long since disbanded. Tear straps, designed to halt a runaway crack, proved useless once the joint had lost its layered integrity. The result was a catastrophic rupture that exposed the cabin to the sky, all set in motion by a breakdown that began at the molecular level and ended with the failure of metal, glue, and rivets working past their limits. Maintenance crews at Aloha Airlines relied almost entirely on visual inspections to check the health of their aircraft. With a flashlight and a practiced eye, inspectors scanned rows of rivets and seams, searching for telltale signs of trouble, paint blisters, surface cracks, or corrosion. But beneath the layers of paint and adhesive, most of the real damage remained invisible. Subsurface cracks and disbonded joints hid just out of sight, growing quietly with every takeoff and landing. The tools that could have revealed these hidden threats, eddy current probes and ultrasonic scanners, were rarely used, if at all. Training in these advanced techniques was minimal, and maintenance records show few instances where such equipment was brought to bear on lap joints. Regulatory oversight did little to fill the gap. The FAA's airworthiness directives at the time focused inspections on only a handful of lap joints, leaving others unchecked. The failed S-10L joint wasn't even included in the required inspection zones. Boeing's service bulletins recommended broader checks, but compliance was inconsistent and often left to the operator's discretion. Meanwhile, the airline's own maintenance program was built around flight hours, not flight cycles, the true driver of fatigue damage in high-frequency, short-haul operations. Inside the hangar, time and resources were always tight. Inspectors worked overnight, often rushing to get aircraft ready for the next day's flights. The pressure to keep planes in the air meant little time for deeper investigation. As a result, the growing network of cracks and corrosion on Queen Liliuokalani went undetected, even as the risk of catastrophic failure increased with every flight. Inside the cockpit, First Officer Madeline Tompkins gripped the controls as the wind roared and daylight poured in where the ceiling had been. Instruments flickered, voices barely carried through the deafening rush of air. Tompkins worked shoulder to shoulder with Captain Schornsteimer, running emergency checklists by memory, radioing a mayday, and guiding the crippled jet into a rapid descent. Every second demanded split-second decisions: speed, altitude, whether the wings would hold. The cockpit crew's calm precision, honed by thousands of hours aloft, held chaos at bay. In the torn cabin, the surviving flight attendants moved through the gale, helping passengers stay low and strapped in, even as debris swirled and oxygen masks tangled in the wind. Clarabelle Lansing's absence was immediate and devastating. For years, she'd been the steady presence on Aloha's inter-island runs, known for her kindness and her watchful eye during safety checks. Colleagues would later recall her warmth and professionalism, her name spoken in briefings and memorials as a reminder of the risks faced by those who care for others at 30,000 feet. The courage shown that day by Tompkins, Lansing, and the entire crew became the human heart of a tragedy that demanded change. The National Transportation Safety Board traced the catastrophe to a failure in the fuselage lap joint, an area weakened by years of disbonding, corrosion, and undetected fatigue cracks. Investigators found that multiple small cracks had formed around rivet holes, quietly linking together until the structure could no longer hold. The NTSB's final report pointed to inadequate inspection methods and maintenance programs that focused on flight hours rather than the true driver of fatigue. repeated takeoffs and landings. The findings sent shockwaves through the aviation world. The FAA launched the Aging Aircraft Program, mandating more frequent and detailed inspections for older, high-cycle jets. Non-destructive testing became standard, with eddy current and ultrasonic scans replacing flashlights and visual checks. Boeing redesigned lap joint structures and issued new repair guidelines for aging fleets. Airlines worldwide adopted cycle-based maintenance schedules, and corrosion prevention programs became industry standard. The legacy of Flight 243 is written not just in regulations, but in every rivet and seam checked with new vigilance. On April 28, 1988, Aloha Airlines Flight 243 lost an 18-foot section of its fuselage at 24,000 feet, resulting in 1 fatality and 65 injuries among 95 people on board. The NTSB found that multi-site fatigue cracking in the cold bonded lap joints, accelerated by nearly 90,000 pressurization cycles and Hawaii's corrosive climate, caused the catastrophic failure. Visual inspections alone failed to detect these hidden cracks. While the investigation documented clear maintenance and design vulnerabilities, some details on crack progression rates under specific environmental conditions remain uncertain. In response, the FAA mandated new inspection standards, and Boeing revised repair protocols for aging jets. Today, structural maintenance is driven by usage cycles, not just age, and non-destructive testing is routine. The lessons of Flight 243 continue to shape aviation safety worldwide, reminding us that vigilance and adaptation remain critical as aircraft age.